So should you still invest in the Denver market? I'm gonna be going over the macro trends, what I'm seeing on the market right now, and why I still invest in the Denver market. A lot of people are worried about the 7% interest rates, and I understand it's definitely hard to make the numbers work. But I know a couple of strategies that will make the numbers work and get you more confident in any sort of market, especially in this Denver market. Now, before I get started on how to start the strategy, who am I to tell you whether it's a good market to invest in? So let me backtrack and give you a little bit of history on my background, on the investing journey, and how that led into the Denver market as well. So I actually started back in San Diego, where I am from, and it was a high cost of living area and still is a high cost of living area. And Denver is not too far behind, but when I started in San Diego, I actually started house hacking over there. And the whole concept of house hacking is just making some additional income with another room, a garage, or a basement while you live in that residence. So over in San Diego, I was working with a realtor that knew about house hacking and found us an off-market duplex in the heart of San Diego. So we lived in one of the units, and the other unit was fully rented out as well. And we rented out a room in our unit. And we made some significant upgrades while we lived in there. We improved on the foundation, the landscaping is brand new, and we did a whole coat of exterior paint. It looks amazing over there. And after about a year and a half, my wife and I wanted a change of pace and wanted to move closer to my parents, who were already living in Denver. And we wanted to do the same thing over in Denver, the whole concept of house hacking so that we don't have to pay the full amount of the mortgage while we live in that home. But it was a little bit tough, and we wanted to get an understanding of what the neighborhoods were like, so my parents were like, hey, why don't you take your time with that and actually stay with us in the basement? And I was like, whoa, you guys have basements? And there's no basements, and I've never been in a basement before, and in California, basements are super rare. It completely changed the game for me, and I knew that the whole concept of basements, house hacking, having a duplex, whatever it might be, the endless possibilities were there right in front of me. So I became a real estate agent soon after. I realized that I was looking at investment properties and analyzing deals from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And I was like, you know what? I might as well make it my day job, and I might as well start working from 9 a.m. all the way to 9 p.m. as a real estate agent. And I've never looked back since. I've helped dozens of clients, investors that are out of state, people that are relocating here, mitigate their mortgage as much as possible through house hacking, or just buying a short-term rental or a long-term rental, and I'll get into the details later on this video. So now currently my portfolio is 3 properties. I have that duplex in San Diego still, I have another long-term rental here in Denver, and I have a short-term rental, which is like an Airbnb property over in the Sherrillwood, Westminster area. A good chunk of my clients are actually out-of-state investors that see value in my YouTube videos and want to work with me for their next investment property. Actually, one of my clients is over in the Texas area, and they do not like the Texas heat during the summertime. So what they wanted to do was buy a second home over here in the Denver area so that they can go here for 3 months out of the year and then come back to Texas for the other 9 months. So now that I've given you my history, let's get into the details behind it of how to make these investment properties work and how does it exactly make sense here in the Denver market. And if you're already looking to invest in the Denver market, maybe you've already analyzed some deals, these 7% interest rates are really tough to make the numbers work. And for those of you who are not familiar, the higher interest rate means that the loan payment is higher as well, so your mortgage increases with that interest rate, depending if you have a loan on the home. So nowadays we have those 7-ish% interest rates, when back last year or a year and a half ago, we were at 3%. And those days are unfortunately gone, and they might happen years in the future, but in the near future, I don't think it's gonna come back anytime soon. However, it might dip to maybe 5%, maybe 4%, but we're just gonna be analyzing deals at that 7% interest rate. So just to let you know, this video isn't necessarily how to invest in real estate. This is more like how to make your investment properties work here in the Denver market. So that might be for a separate video on how to invest in real estate, but for this specifically, I just want to introduce you strategies that work here in the Denver market. So let's get into the foundational metrics behind it. For example, the population growth is a huge metric that you have to measure when you're looking at any city to invest in. So over the past 10 years, Denver's population has grown 1.5% each year. So I think Denver checks off that box. Also, another thing you want to look at is job growth. Are employers coming in here and giving jobs to the people of Denver? So the job market has increased about 2.8% over the last year, and in the next 10 years, the job market is supposed to grow about 45%. With all of these colleges and universities here in Denver, the higher education workforce is here to stay. Denver has the second most highly educated workforce in the country. At about 42% of the population here have college degrees or higher. And there is a lot of development happening here, from new construction of single-family homes to commercial buildings. It is crazy. I want to say that the state bird is now the crane, if you get what I'm saying. And with the influx of population here in the Denver area, there is just not enough inventory to go around at this point. And over time, it looks like the demand is increasing. So you have an increase in population and a really slow supply of inventory trying to catch up to that population. So demand will always be here. Well, maybe not always, but definitely for the foreseeable future. So knowing these large metrics, and Denver definitely completes a lot of these check boxes. So how do we get a piece of this pie with the economic boom happening here in the Denver market? So if you're looking to invest in the Denver market, definitely check out one of these strategies. We have the short-term rental, mid-term rental, and also the long-term rental strategies. I'm gonna start with the strategy that is the most popular and most understandable to people around the country, is the long-term rental strategy. So with long-term rentals, it is definitely the most understandable and most approachable, just because you see it everywhere in the country. Usually families that rent out the home treat it like their own home because they're staying for a year at a time, 2 years, or maybe even 5 years at a time. The second strategy that I want to introduce is the short-term rental strategy. And you might be used to this through Airbnb or Vrbo or Booking.com, where people stay for like 5 to 7 days at a time. You get a family vacation or a couple's retreat. It's just the most attractive that way, and it is already furnished. And all they gotta do is show up, turn the key, and everything's laid out for them. And the new real estate investment strategy that is becoming super popular here in the Denver area is the mid-term rental strategy. This type of strategy caters to the remote worker, the traveling nurse, the grad student, or families that need to move out of their home to completely do a rehab on their original home. So they need to stay for like 1, 2, 3, up to 6 months at a time. And I made a video on the midterm rental strategy, the pros and cons of the midterm rental strategy, so check it out, it's on my channel. So if you're curious, let's say you're a high income earner and you're just super busy with work. Let's say you're working 60 hours a week, but you know that all that money that you're accumulating needs to go somewhere else. And for example, real estate might be the best asset class for you to invest in. And if you already know that and you just want to stick to doing your work and keep the real estate investing as passive as possible, so if this sounds like you definitely want to look into more of the long-term strategy. With the long-term strategy, you have someone staying in there for like a year at a time. It's not going to be completely passive unless you hire a property manager as well. And the very least passive, the most active, like the most hands-on strategy that you can implement here in the Denver area is the short-term rental strategy. That's because you gotta buy the dishes, the silverware, towels, mattresses, bed frames, decorations, and all that good stuff in order to accommodate for those guests that want to stay there for like 4 to 7 days at a time. And so with these strategies, you have an inverse correlation with income and passivity. The more passive it is, you're probably not gonna get as much income. Versus, let's say, the short-term rental, it is much more active. You have to get the decorations, the silverware, the mattresses, the bed sheets, all that good stuff, but you will be generating more income for that property. So with that being said, with Denver being such a high cost of living area compared to the rest of the nation, I would say that long-term rental strategies are really hard to cash flow, or maybe even break even might be more reasonable. I would say that the long-term rental strategy is going to be tough to work out unless you're putting down, let's say, 40% on a property. However, there are some duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes that are here in the Denver area, so you might be able to get more bang for your buck, more units under one roof and on one property. So as of the recording of this video, I'm actually under contract with a fourplex. One of my clients is just a high income earner. He is just looking to move his money from stocks into real estate so that he can get the tax benefits, the write-offs, the depreciation, so that he doesn't have to pay as much during tax time. And since he grew up in Denver, he understands that Denver is just becoming more and more desirable over time. So with him holding on to this fourplex, the rents will keep increasing and his mortgage will stay nearly the same. So let's go over some stats of the Denver market. I mean, we can only talk about these things anecdotally, but let's actually look at the numbers behind it. So the median home sales price back in 2018 was about $452,000. But last month, let's say around May of 2023, the median home price in the Denver metro area was about $590,000. So that's about a 31% increase just over 5 years. Insane to me. And then looking back even further, back in 2014, you had a median home sales price of about $310,000, which is a 48% increase over the past 9 years. Now, I'm not saying that past performance equals future results, but what I am saying is that it is just becoming more desirable over time. Compared to like other cities like Miami, San Diego, New York, Seattle, Austin, Denver still has a lot of room to grow. And full disclosure here, I am not much of a flipper. I like to buy my properties, I hold on to them, and I make sure it's as efficient as possible. So if I were to ever sell it, that investor or that future family would love that asset and pay top dollar for it. And I myself, I don't really invest in stocks anymore. No longer a 401k. I don't like crypto that much. So I consider my rental portfolio my retirement fund. I know I mentioned a little bit about taxes and depreciation and things like that, but I myself am not a CPA and I do not understand your financial situation. So make sure you talk with a professional about it and have them decide what is the best course of action for you and your tax situation and tax season going forward. So sure, the demand is increasing, but I really want the cash flow, Ian. Can that happen? It depends on what strategy that you want to use. So the average rent in Denver as of 2023, we're looking at about $1,600 per month. And take that with a grain of salt because it does matter where it is, the condition of the home, and what the market is like at that time. So rent has increased significantly over the past 10 years, about 85%. But even then, the long-term rental strategy is still not good enough for an investment property where you put down, let's say 20%. You have to get a little creative here. So you might be thinking, okay, I like Denver, I know that's a buy and hold investment, but how do I make the numbers work? So like I said, instead of the long-term rental, let's go into the short-term and mid-term rental strategies. Let's start off with the short-term rental market. And like I said, this is the Airbnb market, Vrbo, and Booking.com, and any other small short-term rental stay brokerage. Airbnb listings have increased in popularity over the past 5 and even 10 years, mainly because people don't really want to stay in a hotel. They want the backyard, they want to feel like they're in a home, they just want to feel like they're going into some home and just feel natural there. Or maybe they want a cool experience, let's say with a hot tub or a fancy kitchen with an island, just to entertain a whole bunch of people, and you can't really get that with a hotel. So for me, I own my short-term rental approximately 10 minutes away from downtown Denver, 25 minutes away from Boulder, 30 minutes away from Denver International Airport, and about 45 minutes away from the mountain towns. I myself pride the actual listing to be very central to a lot of the attractions here in Denver. And a lot of people will pay a premium for that awesome house that is central to a lot of these locations. So let's compare apples to apples here. So with this house that I'm operating as a short-term rental, it would get approximately $2,700 per month if it was just one family staying in there for 1 year. However, looking at the short-term rental strategy, I'm actually able to get about $6,300 per month for June, July, and maybe even August, just because it's summertime and people love this type of home. Like I said earlier, short-term rentals are not for the faint of heart. It definitely takes a lot of work at the beginning, from setting up your systems, property management systems, getting the proper decorations, beds, couches, things like that. And also, let's say you get it all set up, you will have people that go in there and break things at the same time. But it's all part of the business because I bake that into my underwriting. I make sure that, hey, let's say 5% of all income during these months are set aside for any repairs or maintenances that need to be made for this property. And so with all that, I've helped dozens of clients and out-of-town investors to pick up their Airbnb or short-term rental or midterm rental and make the numbers work over time. And if you're ever curious about buying an Airbnb or having that investment property, hit me up because I'm doing it myself and I'm a big believer in the Denver market. So all my contact information is down below in the description. Hit me up and let's talk. We could talk numbers all day because I love doing this stuff. And now let's go into that happy medium strategy, the midterm rental. So with the midterm rental, you're probably curious of how to find renters that fall into this demographic. So with that, the database that I would always go to first is FurnishedFinder.com. FurnishedFinder.com actually released a little pamphlet and ranking of the most in-demand midterm rentals, and Denver is the #6 city in the nation for those midterm rentals, especially for traveling nurses. So like I said before, midterm rental is that happy medium between long-term rentals where you get the year-long lease but you don't get that much income, but then short-term rentals where you have that very active lifestyle, you have to have a lot of hands-on, but it is more income. So midterm rentals are right in between where it does require furnishing, but people stay longer than just 30 days. So they do still require, let's say, shampoo, cleaning supplies, an oven, couches, and things like that. But like I said, they stay a little bit longer and it's a little bit more passive than your typical short-term rental. And because it is all furnished, people love that and they just want to move into the place without having to haul their couches, beds, and all that good stuff. So they will pay a premium for your midterm rental. So if I were to use my short-term rental as a midterm rental, I would get about $3,600 to $3,700 per month as opposed to, let's say, a long-term rental, which would only be about $2,700 per month. And the best part about the midterm rental strategy is that it avoids any sort of short-term rental regulation here in the city of Denver or the greater metro Denver area. So cities like Lakewood or Thornton or even the city of Denver, they do not like short-term rentals unless you live in the property. And because these guests are staying longer than 30 days, it is no longer considered a short-term rental. It is, in the eyes of the law here in Denver, they consider it a long-term rental. And that is why I love real estate so much. I have so much control and I have a lot of options to make money in this market. I'm a huge advocate for Denver and I would highly suggest that you get into this city as well and invest your money here because I see it going nowhere else except up and to the right, which is a good thing. So if you're curious about what strategy works best for you or how much money you should put down or what benefits I've seen with owning real estate, hit me up. Like I said, my contact information is in the description below. I am looking forward to helping you out and I'm looking forward to purchasing my next property and I can share that journey with you if you set up a call with me. Thank you so much and I really appreciate you watching it. Make sure you like and subscribe the video if you found it useful. I'll see you guys next week.